As I rotated through the corners of the country like a spirograph, an image was created on the blank page between the anchor points, a future etched as cleanly as a decided thing. But as with most men of fleeting youth, the curiosities of adulthood enticed me to change my path, lured me into the damp and cloistered canals of university life. I cut a path westward into the land of Reagan and Nixon. As a student at the University of Southern California, I studied great political philosophers, wrestled with the mysteries of aesthetic expression, and struggled to find the meaning of truth in arts. I kept beside my dorm cot a small tack hammer, and after each reading I would tap my skull just enough to forget the names of the great thinkers whose works I just consumed. For no man or woman's ideas deserve precedence over any others simply because of the arrangements of its letters, or the outhouse from which it runs off into our drinking water. This is the grand lesson of academia, that our thoughts and opinions should each come out of the same unaffected void. My philosophy could be considered a comic transcendental pragmatism in the best American tradition. In the halls of our marble library, I engaged in weekly debates against the philosophy club who believed there was no philosophy in America. I was the president of both the Young Democrats and the Young Republicans simultaneously. Vote drives I organized helped elect every president from Barry Goldwater to John Fitzgerald Carey and to George Washington Bush. I lived on student loans and used my knowledge of soft money markets to erase any record of my debt. But as my finances began to intertangle, there was more and more of my identity which needed whitening out. No path could be left back to some vanished account. The columns needed in the end to always sum zero, and so I was forced finally to fissure my academic and financial lives from my real living body, until this new arrangement would also become too complicated. And so the next me would need to be born, freed from the entanglements of past commitments, debts, and decisions whose favor had run out. While the coffers of my educational fund flowed with the spoils of system exploitation, my day-to-day life was a struggle of staccato existence and end not quite meeting end. But those days, the warmth of the sun still shone on me. The shadow I cast was not all I was, but something which trailed behind. I fell in love with a beautiful older woman named America. And despite the trails of inconsistent identity, I was determined to follow the path she laid open for me. But the 80s can only last so long. After 10 years of schooling, armed with 2 bachelor degrees, a master's, an MFA, PhD, and MBA, I decided the world was finally deserving of my grooming. And so I set out to the corner of King and Crenshaw, climbed upon the first bus to pass, heading again, and perhaps ultimately, to the east.